I found the toothbrush on my cleaning cart, still wet, bristles frayed. The name M. Sayer etched into the handle in crude, childlike scratches. It hadn't been there when I stocked the cart 15 minutes ago. Now it rested atop folded towels dripping onto clean linen. The drops smelled faintly metallic, coppery, like old coins or blood. I touched it. The plastic was ice cold, slick with something that wasn't water. A sharp whisper curled past my ear. Still here. Too fast to catch, too real to ignore. I spun around. The empty hallway. No footsteps, no draft. Just the groan of wood and the low creaking of the walls, like bones settling after a long sleep. High in my eyes, something flashed a vision, sudden and searing. I saw a young woman in a housekeeper's uniform, kneeling in room 46, scrubbing the floor with shaking hands as blood seeped from the tiles. Her lips moved, repeating a prayer in Pashto, the regional tongue around these parts. The same prayer etched into the stone near the boiler room once used to keep the house spirits calm. According to the old receptionist, Greg, a ritual no one performs anymore. I blinked. The hallway returned. My head pounded. I tasted something, vile rising in my throat, bile and old rust. My hands shook. I reached for the radio to call the front desk, but it only crackled with a woman's soft humming. I tried again. The same melody, slightly louder. The lights flickered, then steadied. I almost believed it was over. Maybe it was the stress. Maybe I needed rest. But when I looked back at the cart, the towels were gone. In their place sat a second toothbrush, identical to the first. It had my name carved into it. The Eastwood Hotel felt wrong the moment I stepped inside. The air was stale and thick, like it hadn't moved in years. The wallpaper sagged with age, curling in on itself like skin around a festering wound. Beneath my boots, the faded carpet squelched faintly, damp in patches that smelled of mildew, and something sharper, like rot, mixed with copper. I gagged. My tongue tasted iron. Light bulbs flickered overhead, casting twitching shadows across the cracked floor. The chandelier in the lobby creaked softly, like it was being pushed by an unseen hand. Each step echoed too loud, like the building was listening, watching. My job was simple: clean the rooms, don't ask questions. But the staff wouldn't speak of room 46. When I mentioned it to Rosa, the laundry girl, her eyes widened. She crossed herself 3 times and whispered, "The djinn doesn't forget." Greg, the old receptionist, muttered something about a maid who opened the door that shouldn't be opened, and said the local imam once tried to cleanse the room, but the Quran he left behind had its pages burned from the inside out. Still, I tried to convince myself it was just superstition. I even joked about it in my head as I climbed the narrow staircase. "Maybe I'll clean it so well the ghost leaves a tip," I whispered aloud. The air on the 4th floor was colder. My breath misted. Walls pulsed faintly under the wallpaper, like they were breathing. Just nerves, I told myself. Then I saw it, a fresh smear of bloody fingerprints trailing down the wall from 46, disappearing into the floor. I froze. Then the doorknob to room 406 turned on its own, and a soft voice from inside whispered, "You finally came back." Asterisk room 406 looked spotless when I entered. That should have calmed me. Instead, it filled me with dread. No dust, no hair in the sink, no crumbs on the floor. The bed was perfectly made, tighter than I'd ever done it. But I hadn't touched it yet. I'd only just unlocked the door. The smell hit me first, not strong, but wrong. A faint mix of bleach, copper, and something sour beneath it all, like spoiled milk and decaying flowers. The air had weight, like I was wading into something old and watching. My mop handle slipped in my grip. The wood was wet. I touched the floor, bone dry, but my palms smelled of iron afterward. I blinked hard, fighting nausea. My vision swam. the corners of the room rippling like heat mirage. From the corner of my eye, the mirror above the dresser moved, not reflected movement, but shifted, like the glass was breathing in. I whipped around, stilled. But then, I noticed, the reflection showed the bed still perfectly made, but with someone lying under the sheets. Kay turned back to the real bed. Nothing. I started to back out, heart racing, every nerve in my skin sparking. That's when I heard it, faint humming, the same song from the radio. Now, inside the room, coming from the closet. I flung the door open. It's empty, but the humming didn't stop. Then it did. Silence. Cold, still, dead silence. For a moment, I thought maybe it was over. My heartbeat slowed as my vision cleared. I laughed, breathless. Just nerves, I whispered. Then I turned around and saw the room was clean again. Mop placed neatly by the door, rags folded, trash gone, and written across the bathroom mirror in steam was, "Clean me again, and I'll remember you." I couldn't stop thinking about the mirror message. I cleaned it, scrubbed, until the glass squealed beneath my rag. But the words wouldn't fade. They vanished only when I blinked gone, then reappeared as if they'd always been there. The next morning, I returned to room 46, armed with bleach, gloves, and shaky confidence. I told myself I'd figured this out, okay? Maybe it was a prank. Maybe the door creaked open before I touched it. Smell-old copper and rotting lily hit. Me harder than yesterday, stronger now. Like the wound had been stewing overnight. My tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. I could almost taste blood, like biting my cheek too deep. I started searching. Had to know what was going on. In the nightstand drawer, beneath the Gideon Bible, I found an old, yellowed envelope. Inside was a torn photo of a girl in a maid's uniform. Her face, half burned away, scrawled on the back in faded Urdu. She saw too much. She spoke the name, blinked, then stumbled as the floor shuddered beneath me. The wallpaper beside the bed peeled back on its own, revealing dozens of fingernail scratches, some still stained dark red. I pressed my hand to it. The wall was warm, like flesh. That's when I saw the journal, stuck behind the dresser, bound in cracked leather. Okay, the entries were mostly mad ramblings in pastel, but one repeated phrase chilled me. It wears there. Faces. It waits to be let in. My thoughts spiraled. Ugh. My name on the toothbrush. The reflection in the mirror. The humming. Was I dreaming? Hallucinating? I staggered back, breathing fast, and suddenly the lights brightened. The air warmed. The smell faded. For a moment, it felt normal. Then the photo in my hand bled down my wrist, and the girl's ruined face smiled. Asterisk. I tried leaving the hotel. I really did. Packed my things, gripped the doorknob of the lobby's front exit like it was a lifeline. But the second I stepped outside, the world shifted, colors inverted, the air buzzed like static, and a metallic taste filled my mouth, like chewing on rusted nails. My vision blurred. I blinked, and I was standing back in front of room 46, mop in hand, floor gleaming beneath me. The room was humming again. Not a tune this time. Voices, whispering, overlapping, speaking too fast, too many. I couldn't understand the words, but they scraped against my mind like sandpaper. The walls pulsed with every syllable. The mirror vibrated, fogging on its own, the surface trembling. Desperate, I screamed at the room, demanded to know what it wanted. That's when the lights died. In the pitch dark, I heard a faint child's voice behind me whisper, "You know, my name." I spun, flashlight shaking in my grip. The beam flickered, revealing the room now lined with faceless women, eyes hollow, mouths open in silent screams. Their skin melted into the wallpaper. The scent of burning flesh and perfume soaked the air. I collapsed to the floor, bile rising in my throat. My hand landed on something soft. I looked down, a scorched handkerchief with the hotel's embroidered logo and initials SA underneath. I remembered now. The girl in the photo, Sophia, the maid who vanished decades ago after she was locked in his room during a cleansing ritual gone wrong. The imam who led it never left either. They said his screams echoed for 3 nights straight. I clutched the journal again, flipping desperately. One final entry. She speaks through the walls now. She wears my hands. Okay. Then I looked up and saw my own reflection cleaning the room without me. I stood frozen, watching my reflection mop the floor with a grin I wasn't wearing. Its movements were slow, graceful, almost reverent. When it looked up, our eyes met tanned. Mine weren't mine anymore. They were clouded like 2 old marbles, swimming with black ink. My knees buckled. I tasted bile, hot and metallic, as my stomach twisted. The room pulsed. The wallpaper bled from its seams. Thick red lines, tracing forgotten prayers I couldn't read. Desperate for answers, I tore through the drawers again. Beneath the loose floorboard under the bed, I found a bundle wrapped in moldy linen-old prayer beads, brittle as twigs, and a rusted locket. Inside was a photo of Sophia as a child, smiling wide beside a man whose eyes had been scratched out violently. Tucked beneath was a brittle paper stamped with a talisman half-burned. It's unreadable. My ears rang as I touched it, a low-frequency moan vibrating through the walls like a dying horn. My head throbbed. A flood of images tore into me, visions of rituals in the basement, candles melting in reverse, chanting voices turning into screams. I saw the imam again, choking on ash, blood pouring from his ears. He'd tried binding the entity to room 406, but he failed. They all had. Sophia's echo, twisted by pain, didn't want to leave. Kay wanted to replace. I fell back, heart pounding. Then silence. The whispers stopped. The air turned warm again. The mirror cleared. I looked at myself, and just for a second, I was normal again. I laughed, loud, cracked laughter. Relief flooded through me, but the relief died instantly as I noticed something crawling out from the venta hand. Blackened and boneless, dragging a rosary behind it that whispered my name in my mother's voice. Asterisk, I scrambled away from the vent, slamming into the corner where the wallpaper peeled like burnt skin. The air grew thick, tasting of rust and rotting incense. A wet, coppery scent clung to my nostrils. The hand vanished back into the darkness, but not before I noticed something dangling from its Rista hotel key. Room 46. My room, my breath hitched. The ceiling above me creaked as if someone crawled across it on all fours, nails tapping. I covered my ears. The whispers returned, louder this time, merging into a rhythm. Not random now chanting, foreign syllables I couldn't place, yet felt stitched into my bones. I crawled to the bathroom and splashed water on my face. Cold, too cold. It smelled like old pennies. When I looked up, the mirror didn't show me. It showed her Sophia and crying, lips sewn shut, eyes pleading. Behind her, the walls bled scripture. The visions came again, not memories invasions. I saw how they buried her alive during the ritual, believing her body had been possessed by a jinn. Locals whispered of a spirit that mimicked the dead to lure the grieving. They tried salt lines, blood markings, even drowned a cleric in the courtyard fountain to appease it. None of it worked. Sophia didn't die with her body. She learned to wear others. I backed into the hallway, quiet. For the first time in hours, silence. I almost wept. I staggered toward the elevator. The button lit up. I pressed it, heart thudding. The doors opened empty. Maybe I could leave. Maybe it was over. Then a voice crackled through the ancient intercom above me, childlike, breathy. You're almost ready. Just one more thing, and the elevator doors closed behind me before I stepped in. Asterisk, I ran. Nation just away. My boots slipped on the hallway's slick tiles. It's now oozing a black sludge that stank of mildew and something sweet, like spoiled meat. My hands grazed the walls for balance, only to recoil. They were pulsing, warm, as if breathing beneath the plaster. With each heartbeat of the hotel, the lights above flickered in sync. The building wasn't just haunted, it was alive. The lobby had changed. Chandeliers now hung upside down, spinning slowly, dripping something red into buckets that hadn't been there earlier. It smelled like old copper and decayed roses. Somewhere above, a child was laughing, not playfully, but fractured. It's like a recording glitching on repeat. I stumbled toward the front desk, desperate for a phone, a key, a sign of anyone else. Instead, I found the old guest book lying open. Its pages flipped wildly on their own, stopping on one name repeated again and again, Safia al-Nazari. Written in different hands, different years. 1953, 1976, 1999. All guests, all in room 406. My reflection in the cracked glass door stared back with eyes that weren't mine, black, lidless, unblinking. I pounded the door, screamed. The outside world looked normal. Sunlight, a taxi passing, people walking. I shouted until my throat scraped raw. No one looked. They couldn't see me. I was still inside, but no longer part of it. Then calm. A hush. The light steadied. Bleeding walls crusted over. Even the voice stopped. I laughed. Again, broken and breathless. Maybe it had passed. Maybe I wasn't what it wanted. That's when the ceiling cracked, and something enormous wet, many-limbed and singing with Sophia's voice, began to crawl down from above. Asterisk. I couldn't scream anymore. My voice had dried up like the blood caked beneath my fingernails. The thing, Safia, or whatever were, her voice descended from the ceiling like melted wax given form. Limbs stretching where no limbs should be. Her face split into a grin of teeth that weren't human, each one humming like piano wire under tension. I ran again, feet slipping in bile that now coated the floors like a second skin. It tasted like battery acid and old pennies when it splashed against my lips. I stumbled into the stairwell. Cold metal rails bit into my palms as I gripped them, dragging myself up. The lights flickered red, then out. The silence that followed wasn't relief, it was oppressive. Whispers clawed at my ears, chanting in a language I didn't know, but somehow understood. You stayed, you opened, now be part. I clutched the wall, nails dragging over moist wallpaper that pulsed beneath. My touch, the building breathed, and it hated me. I reached the 4th floor, gasping, and turned the corner only to see room 46's door wide open. Inside, candles flickered around a circle of charred symbols etched into the wood. A vision struck me so clear it was real. Villagers in 1893 sealing the room with goat's blood and ash, whispering Arabic prayers older than the Quran, sealing Safia inside. A wedding gone wrong, a jealous bride, a ritual misread, with the wrong name spoken. She hadn't died. She had waited. Tears blurred my vision. My thoughts cracked. I laughed, quietly at first, then louder, as I realized I couldn't remember my name, or why I ever came here. Was I the cleaner, or another guest like them? Behind me, the door slammed shut, and from inside room 406, I heard myself calling for help. Asterisk. I pressed myself against the far corner of room 406. Knees pulled tight, trying to disappear into the rotting wallpaper. My skin crawled. The walls blurred against low rivulets of dark crimson seeping from cracks, forming shapes that pulsed and twisted. They spelled something, but I couldn't read it anymore. Words felt foreign now. My tongue was thick, bitter. The taste of bile and iron clung to the back of my throat. I had bitten my own lip raw and didn't even notice. The room reeked sweet, cloying rot mixed with scorched incense. Somewhere, a lullaby played on a loop, warped and off-key. I'd found the music box earlier under the bed, its porcelain dancer, broken at the waist, her face eerily similar to mine. The note beneath it was old and smudged, but I could still make out the words. She dances forever, so long as one watches. I threw it across the room, landed with a soft chime, and kept playing. I saw her again in a sudden vision, so vivid it stole my breath. Safia in crimson wedding robes, standing at the altar alone, her groom missing, her father chanting the wrong verses. Something ancient entering through her grief, sting that fed on forgotten promises. The villagers buried her alive, sealed the room with goat hearts and oil-soaked prayer cloths, but tradition faltered when belief waned. The seals faded, and I got help. Mine was the first to stay in 406 in 30 years. The silence returned. The bleeding stopped. The air cooled. Hope stirred. I stood, trembling, heart hammering. Maybe I could run. Maybe. Then the mirror turned black. My reflection smiled, and behind it, the walls opened like a mouth.